And for those of you paying close attention and watching on our YouTube stream or in archive, you'll notice there's something missing over my right shoulder. An explanation for that coming up in mere moments. In the meantime, welcome to the sheet for this Tuesday, September 2nd. Glad to have you aboard. We're still burning sort of once per week. That is going to change. Details on the new sked coming up in a couple of moments. In the meantime, I want to remind you to start the show off today that the program is brought to you by Simply Spiked. As we all know, summer is here and we are deep in it. Hanging out in the great weather with great friends. You want the feeling to last forever, and you can still squeeze every tiny drop out of summer, even though the kids are at school now, with Simply Spiked. Simply Spiked has 3 delicious flavors: the OG Summer Classic, Simply Spiked Lemonade, that's always a party favorite, or try a sweet and juicy summer sip with Simply Spiked Peach, or check out the newest flavor in the Simply Spiked lineup, Simply Spiked Limeade, sweet and tart. And if you don't know which one you want to try, well, simply try them all. The Simply Spiked Variety Pack. Enjoy. These juice beverages are 5% alcohol. They contain real fruit juice and are the perfect and refreshing, convenient summer drink. Simply Spiked pairs perfectly with any summer occasion, summer hangs, backyard and pool parties, or a barbecue. Simply Spiked launched in Canada in 2023, has been bringing the juiciness ever since. Pick up Simply Spiked at your local liquor store for your next summer hangout. Must be legal drinking age. And as always, we remind you, please celebrate responsibly. Glad to have you aboard today. Whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on your favorite podcast platform, we appreciate your undivided attention. And you do listen and watch very closely. And that's something we've always admired around these parts. Zach, let's get right to it. The daily rundown, as always, is presented by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel, make every moment more with North America's #1 sports book, FanDuel. Now, getting to what we're talking about today and who we're talking about it with, Greg Wyshynski from ESPN will stop by. He has a really interesting piece out right now. That really, and it's a great idea, the best NHL draft pick ever at every slot from #1 to 224. And there's one pick specifically that I want to get into with Greg, which really warmed the heart of this old man. Nick Alberga from Leafs Morning Take will drop by, and Greg and I will talk to him about Mitch Marner, why he's no longer with the Maple Leafs. That story continues. I don't think the interview with Mark Masters has put this one to bed. Speaking of contracts, we'll talk about McDavid's contract. We'll talk about, Luke Hughes' contract, impending or otherwise, with the New Jersey Devils. Rasmus Andersson. I love the NHL European media tour because European players, when they're at home, will say a lot of things that they won't say when they're back in North America. Credit Mikael Backlund. Oh, yeah, he's gone. We all know it. Let's bring aboard Greg Wyshynski from ESPN, author of a number of intriguing pieces over the summer. I'm always impressed, Greg, at how you're able to take the dog days of, in this case, August, where there hasn't been a real lot going around, and turned it into one of the most compelling pieces, albeit, I don't want to say ripped off, because, as I've always maintained, greatness borrows, but genius steals. Your piece on the best NHL draft pick at every slot from #1 to 224 is a fantastic read. I'm embarrassed at myself for not coming up with it in one of the Dog Day shows that I've done, however many years I've been behind a microphone. And you've known me for a long time. You and I go back to, I think our friendship goes back to 2007 that we've been hanging.
At least.
So is there one slot that you think I would be most interested in? Like, I went from 1, where you have Mario Lemieux, right to this number fast, and you kind of didn't disappoint.
Well, knowing you, it's either 69 or 420, but we didn't go to 420 on this one. First of all, I should say a lot of people think I ripped this off of my good friend Down Goes Brown. I ripped it off of Ben Solak, who is an NFL writer for ESPN. He did it for the NFL. I'm like, hey, we have a draft, and decided to do it there. I appreciate your words on the dog days of the summer. One, I've learned that's a great time to put out content because hockey fans are starved for anything. Yes. And it's also a chance to do more of your goofier projects. I know at Puck Daddy, when I ran it at Yahoo Sports, that's where you would find Mount Puckmore and the 10 most important things to know about my franchise and all the basically farming out work for others was my summer plan, but now I have to do it myself. Thirdly, before we get to your number, you're right. It has been a very, very slow and inconsequential, for the most part, off season, which is odd because I swore I read in The Athletic that this was going to be the summer of the offer sheet. Wait, that might have been 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 4 years ago.
Well, hold on a second.
It just never happens, does it?
Pause on that.
It just never happens, does it?
Everybody got spoiled by Doug Armstrong last year. Doug Armstrong ruined it for everybody with the with the double offer sheets with the Edmonton Oilers. So he wrecked it. He wrecked it for everybody. So what's our lesson? But what's that?
Hold on. But what's our lesson? Our lesson is, unless someone is trying to take the piss out of another GM, see Doug Armstrong and Stan Bowman, we're not getting any offer sheets. But I will say this about the offseason. There was a lot of people, GMs, agents, who said after free agent frenzy that we were going to see a slew of trades. And I'm starting to wonder whether or not what we saw during the frenzy, which was a lot of people staying where they were because all of a sudden teams were flush with space and not forced into jettisoning people like they used to, whether that also played into the trade market where now they don't have to be as aggressive because, they have the guys that they want and why deal them away? But that's a conversation for earlier.
Hang on. One more point. I got to add on everything here. You know me.
Please.
What this is the way summers have generally been. Like this kind of felt for the first time, really, although it's kind of been this way for a while, but really felt like, how, God, I'm just going to sound so old. 15, 20 years ago, Greg, GMs would punt on July 2nd and you wouldn't hear from them again until September 2nd.
Hear from them.
Nothing. Yeah. Feathers. You would get not a peep out of anybody. Gone fishing, closed, last call, all of it. That's what this summer was. This was the harkening back to the old days. But really, the managers really, like as they usually do, only really took a couple of weeks off. Okay, what number was your boy Jeffy most interested in? Even though you didn't have his player at this slot, and I can't disagree with it.
I don't know. I know that you being an old soul, you might have gravitated to number 15, where I had Mike Bossy over Al McGinnis, Joe Sakic, and Erik Karlsson.
I loved that, and I agreed with it. I agreed with that. 100%.
Maybe you liked number 1, where all of a sudden, and you could read the piece at ESPN.com. All of a sudden, it's still Mario, right? Mario. Sorry, the jersey comes out sometimes, but there's at least a conversation to be had about Ovechkin and Crosby. I'm not saying that they're better than Lemieux. I'm just saying that. Yes. When you think about Ovi's accomplishment, when you think about what Sid has done in this era versus what Mario did in his era, there's at least a comma and then the rest of the sentence conversation. Maybe there are a few sentences down in the paragraph after we get through all of Lemieux's stats, but at least there's a conversation. But I don't know what number piqued your interest, Jeffy.
Number 27 for your California Seals, Gilles Meloche. Not at number 70 because, hang on, because that would be even too hipster. I love it because it's a hipster reference. So number 70 for Wish is Rob Blake. And listen, rightfully so. Hall of Fame career, just marvelous defenseman, check all the boxes. That's Rob Blake. But because I'm going through all these and I'm reading it and I get to 7, I'm like, I wonder if he's going to do it. I wonder if he's going to do it. How many hipsters does it take to change a light bulb? You probably never heard of it. It's a rare number. Is he going to do it? Is he going to say Gilles Meloche? And he does. So let me say it. But we would be remiss not to acknowledge the awesomeness that was Gilles Meloche. Blackhawks 1970. Oh, my heart. Oh, my heart. And his Cleveland Barons goalie mask. Or his North Stars goalie mask. Or, as we see here, one of many, California Golden Seals goalie mask. You did it. You actually put Gilles Meloche, who I've always maintained if he played on one of those heavyweight teams in the 1970s, he'd be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. We were talking about him and not Ken Dryden. But nonetheless, here's another thing for you. Do you know he owns a burger restaurant in Montreal where they do, I believe they still do. It's now called Meloche 27. It used to be called Delelio Burger. Montreal fans got to crush me for this, for not knowing it. But what they would do is the upside down burger. So they would have the top bun on the bottom and the traditional bottom bun on the top. I don't know if that's unique in burger lore. if there's any other burger franchises that do that, but I still believe they still do it at Meloche 27 in Montreal.
So that's intriguing. It's pretty fucking dumb. The bottom of a bun is flat, so it all just lays down on the flat surface of the bottom bun.
I don't know the
top
philosophy
one is a
behind it.
Dome.
Yeah.
The top part of a bun is a fucking dome. So it's like
Yeah.
flipping the Louisiana Superdome upside down and expecting it not to weeble wobble.
Yeah, it's
like, what are we
wobbling on your plate. I don't know what the philosophy behind it was. It's the upside down burger. I don't know. I don't do these things. I look at it and go like, hey, Meloche has got the upside down burger. That's awesome. Go to his restaurant. I got to go to Meloche 27.
You bring up an interesting thing about the list, though, insofar as like, it's kind of like judging someone born into the wrong family. You know, if only this person had the advantages someone else had in life, would they become president? Would they become, a surgeon? Marcel Dion at number 2 is the greatest example of that. I picked him there, not only because of the incredible goal totals, but I mean, you had some really, really good players there. You had Evgeny Malkin, you had Hedman, Pronger, Doughty, Barkov is there, Eichel is there.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, like when you think about the Kings teams that Dion played with, if he had been on the Oilers or the Islanders during that era, my God, like we'd be talking about him as a hockey deity. And so I still put him at number 2, but with the acknowledgement that there's a little bit of, if only it had been different for him team-wise, if only he had ended up in a different place during that era, we'd be having he'd be a lock. But instead of there being a conversation about someone like Malkin.
The other 2 that I would have considered there, because I'm with you, I would have gone Marcel Dion as well. And I wonder if that's just like an old thing for me because I grew up loving Marcel Dion. But man, the Triple Crown line was so hot. The other 2 for me would be Malkin or Pronger. Those would be the other 2 that I would look at and go like, yeah, you know what? He doesn't have Dion there, but he's got Malkin or he's got Pronger. I'm good with you.
Malkin perpetually underrated. Pronger, I mean, again, like it's tough when you're in the Lidstrom era,
not the Niedermayer era. How dare you, New Jersey?
And the Niedermayer era, yeah, that too. But I mean, like you talk about like combination of blunt force trauma, stepping on a guy with your skate, and also he could get you like 70 points. I mean, Pronger was a real special player.
Yeah, he really was. He earned his ice. Okay, listen, check this piece out. It's fascinating. It is honestly, there's been some great summer reads, as there always are. This might be my favorite. My favorite. Even though I went from 1 to 70 really fast, I did go back and read all of them. I just loved this read.
Who knew that remembering 224 hockey guys would somehow appeal to Jeff Marek? That is something none of us could have possibly wagered on.
Surprised to know that I was single for a good portion of my life, Greg Wyshynski. Stuff like this tickled me in the chin.
As we're talking, the people watching on YouTube may notice that I'm not in my little hovel with all the doodads behind me that I do all the ESPN hits with.
In your summer shirt.
I'm in Virginia because tomorrow, as we do the show, is the National Hockey League Players Association Upper Deck Rookie Showcase. It's when all the big name rookies, or not all of them, but a good portion of them, converge on the Capitals practice facility in Arlington, Virginia, and they go and they get their pictures taken for their hockey cards and stuff, and then do a bunch of promotional stuff. But it's also a chance for them to meet the media. And, we'll talk to Matthew Schaefer, which just means that we'll ask a question of Schaefer, and then he'll just go for another hour on that question because the kid's amazing.
Yes.
Ginla's going to be there. Ryan Leonard's going to be there. Like Nikishkin from the Hurricanes will be there. There'll be a lot of interesting people to talk to. And I always like the event because it is, from a selfish standpoint, like your first entry back into the world of hockey as we all gear up for the preseason. But also these kids have a lot to say, and it's always really interesting.
I'm glad that TJ Ginla is there. Fascinating young man. Listen, I'm curious about a player like Zane Parekh, who I think people are really going to love, a Calgary Flames draft pick. And the other one that I think a lot of us are really curious about because he still hasn't signed a contract yet, and that's Michael Misa of the San Jose Sharks. Is Misa there, Greg Wyshynski, with microphone
I
in hand, asking
I will
young
let you know
Misa
that in 1
what's
second.
happening with
I
his
do
young
have the
career
list.
right now?
And I will tell you that Michael Misa is not on the roster of players that are expected to be there.
Okay, I mean
For obvious reasons.
he's an intriguing one. Now, I believe
he
it's
is.
too. I believe it's too. It's too late to enroll in college now, right? To enroll in classes.
I mean, college has started.
So college,
for
you
most
can't
people.
join. I don't know these things about the States, but it is too late. Like, it's not like, oh, well, if he doesn't get the contract from the San Jose Sharks and make San Jose, he's going to show up at pick a school, Denver.
I mean, I
Michigan,
think you
Nodak.
could come and join a college at any point. It's just that, like, you'll have missed a bunch of quizzes is the thing. But again, as a student,
I don't know if
athlete,
you're academically eligible to play is essentially what I'm getting at. Anyhow, he's a curious case right now. I think for a lot of people, like, well, what's happening with Michael Misa? It does very much feel like it's San Jose or back to Saginaw to maybe be traded. Who knows? But I don't know. We'll see what happens. Fascinating. Misa. Okay, so a couple
using
things.
your Spidey sense as a junior hockey guru, why do you think that he's dragging his skates on joining the Sharks?
I don't think that he's dragging his skates on joining the Sharks. I think that Michael Misa thinks he can make the Sharks. I think that a lot of people in San Jose that think that he can as well. I think one of the things that you need to be cautious about is having too many kids in the lineup right away. We went through that with the Edmonton Oilers, and a lot of them came out fine at the other end. But you remember how awkward those years were with all the first overall picks. And it was horrible, right? It was awful. Making the jump from junior hockey right into the NHL is extremely hard. You have to be extremely gifted. We expect a player like Matthew Schaefer to be able to do it, but these are the exceptions, not the rules. I think Michael Misa has it to do it as well. I think that if you're San Jose, you're sensitive to a couple of things. One, Macklin Celebrini, who looks like he's just like going to turn into, like, there are some guys that you think, okay, early in their career, they're going to have a big pop year. I think we're all expecting another pop year for Macklin Celebrini. Will Smith looks good. You have Sam Dickinson on the horizon. Is he a San Jose Shark? And is Michael Misa a Shark? That all of a sudden, you've got a lot of young hockey players at a lot of key positions, and you have to wonder about overexposing kids too early in their career.
Well, it's also a chicken or the egg thing, because I think the real issue with the Oilers back when it was Taylor Hall and Yakupov and Nugent Hopkins and the pre-Connor McDavid Oilers, let's call them, the real issue wasn't necessarily that those guys weren't ready for prime time. The real issue was that the team sucked. And I think at some point it became quite obvious that the culture of losing, the changing of coaches, like all of that stuff were toxins entering the system of these young players. And that's to me, that's the real danger with San Jose. Like, I don't think San Jose is close to turning the corner quite yet.
Nope.
And there are clearly other teams in that division that are probably a hell of a lot closer, like Anaheim. So the real question is, like, how long do you want a young player like Misa to marinate in what could be another 2 to 3 years of losing? And the answer is probably you don't want him to, if we're being honest.
Yeah. We'll see where that one heads. I'd be curious where his head is at right now. Anyhow, apropos of nothing, a couple of things I want to get your thoughts on. And Nick Alberga is going to stop by here at the bottom of the hour, and the host of Leafs Morning Take, and we'll get his thoughts on the Mitch Marner interview with Mark Masters from TSN. We're getting there, Greg. Don't worry, we're getting there. But before we do, where are you at on Luke Hughes right now? New Jersey Devils, and there's a lot of players that haven't signed yet, restricted free agents, and this makes it Mason McTavish's name is still very much out there as an unsigned RFA. Boy, would he look good in just about every jersey in the NHL. But where do you stand on Luke Hughes right now? It seems like New Jersey wants either a 3 or an 8, and he wants a 5 because he wants to hit UFA with his bro.
Yeah, and that's the part I don't like all that much, Marek, is we were supposed to unite the Hughes Triforce in New Jersey. That was always the plan.
No one said it was going to be easy, though. No one
I
said
still think remains the plan.
CAA was going to roll over.
I just think of the lack of activity for the Devils this summer, and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Now, by Brian Windhorst. Now, why would they be so quiet? What are they waiting for? But But yeah, you're right. The contract part of this is so obvious. It's like he wants 5 because him and Jack and maybe Quinn, if he takes like a 2-year bridge in Vancouver, can all of a sudden all become Detroit Red Wings. The Devils want 3 to make sure that they still have RFA rights by the end of that contract, or they want 8 to keep him there 2 years after Jack is eligible for free agency. So I think this is going to be a lot of tea leaf reading if you're a Devils fan, or if you're curious about the future of the Hughes brothers uniting somewhere, which is what is the length of this contract, and ultimately what are the trade-offs to get it to the years that the Devils ultimately probably get it to. I'd be shocked if they acquiesce and give him 5, wouldn't you? Like there's going to be maybe some financial compensation, but this to me feels like, and we always talk about this with RFAs, like what are the pressure points they possibly have in a negotiation? Usually it's like not showing up to training camp, like
but
we
that
saw
hurts.
with Jeremy Swayman.
You're a younger player when that happens, and that ends up hurting you as well.
And that ends up hurting you and ends up potentially hurting your team. But I'm just saying that like there's so many limited pressure points. Mm-hmm. This is clearly one of them for Luke. One of them is, I know that I can put you over a barrel insofar as your best player and his brother both being free agents in the same season, or the same summer rather. And I do wonder if ultimately this is a negotiating tactic just to get the money where he wants it to be on a shorter deal.
A couple of things in there. The idea of all of them hitting free agency at the same time and jumping to another team. First of all, I don't know how many teams, Detroit specifically, I don't know how many teams are comfortable, because tampering doesn't exist. I don't know how many teams would be comfortable leaving that amount of cap space available, or planning for something that if it goes south, all of a sudden you've completely mangled your squad, because throwing salt over your shoulder and saying we're going to sign the Hughes triplets come July 1st just turns into a pipe dream. Listen, you know what? I honestly, I keep coming back to this too. Like, if you're the Vancouver Canucks, like, we all know where this thing is heading with Quinn Hughes. I think that's safe to say. Like, Rutherford opened a jar that you can't close, right? That toothpaste not.
You
going
can't
back
unring the bell.
You can't unring the bell. The toothpaste is not going back into the bottle. Like all of it, like into the tube. Like, insert your own cliche here, and which leads me to, and is for a bigger conversation. But I just, like, if Quinn Hughes, if that's where the team is at, and it's where Quinn Hughes is at, how are they not listening on everybody?
Yeah.
If you're Vancouver. How are you not listening on every single player? Because all of a sudden, a timeline has changed. That's my thought on that one. That's my thought on Vancouver.
Well, I guess the real question is, like, what's their modus operandi for this season and next season? Is it to just be good enough to kind of sniff around a wild card and make a bunch of ticket revenue? And what's their plan? Like, what's the plan for
right
them,
now? The plan is to stay healthy and get into the playoffs. Because they really didn't do much this off season. They re-signed Besser. No. They re-signed Thatcher Demko. They looked for a second line center. Didn't find it. They're just hoping that Philip Hedl can stay healthy, and they can make it into the playoffs. And that's the job.
Hired Quinn's guy as the head. You forgot hired Quinn's guy.
Adam Foote, yes, Adam Foote. Adam Foote is there. Understood. I know you're trying to keep your superstar happy, and that's why I always go, like, if I'm Tom Fitzgerald. On the one hand, you have this in your hip pocket. On the other hand, you're like, okay, well, this is like years away from him hitting unrestricted free agency. So it's an interesting showdown. Fitzgerald can play we can get him anyway in a couple of years. And Rutherford saying, well, we don't have to let him go right now, and you're up against it to make the playoffs and go deep. It's an interesting conversation between the two. I wouldn't even know, like, what the nature of the conversation would be right now.
I think the nature of the conversation, if you're the Devils, is we have some young assets that you may fancy, like Nemec, like Seamus Casey. Yeah. And those guys aren't getting any younger. Luke Hughes. Those guys aren't getting any younger. So if your swing for Quinn is to get a bunch of, like, blue chip prospects and picks and such, like, if that's the trade, if that's what this ends up being, then you're listening on everybody, is what I think.
if you're there now.
Right.
What are your latest? Because listen, all summer long it was pretty quiet. I mentioned this to Jeff Jackson at our little Muskoka interview from a couple of weeks ago. It seemed like all summer long was pretty quiet about Connor McDavid. I would have thought that on July 2nd, once there wasn't a contract, it would have been like torches at the Castle Gate. It wasn't, but now it's flared up since the interview and subsequent comments by Connor McDavid himself at Team Canada camp. Your thoughts on where the Oilers and Connor McDavid are at right now?
My thoughts are you have two pretty well-connected people both saying the same thing in John Shannon and your former podcast husband, Elliot Friedman, both saying that they don't expect that McDavid will sign before camp or they won't sign before the season rather. Which is kind of a startling development if you're an Edmonton fan. I think most of us assumed that he would sign a 3 to 4 year extension around the same time Leon did his big contract last year. And from the sound of it, like either he's still waiting to hear what he wants to hear or the sell hasn't gone the way he wants to go, or he's waiting, seeing it, or I don't know, man. But like, it sounds like he's not angling to sign anything like before the season. And I got to be honest with you, like I thought that would be all said and done. You know, that he wouldn't want to have to go into training camp with all these questions, or even to play a player media tour with all these questions. Yeah. Or even have that be a distraction at all in a season in which his eyes are on a gold medal and then the cup. So if that happens, I'll be honest. Like I'm really, really surprised that he'd want that sort of Damocles hanging over his head longer than many of us expected it would be.
Which always leads me to believe that it does get done before training camp. Like it's not a again, like Jackson told us, like it's not a negotiation. That's a phone call from Judd Moldaver to Jeff Jackson / Stan Bowman. And this is what Connor wants. There's no negotiation here. Everybody understands what the other side wants / needs. There's no negotiation. It's one side calling.
I think the concern for Edmonton fans right now is the one thing that he's given us is that I want to win in Edmonton. And everybody's wondering what the parenthetical to that is. This season,
well, the thought,
like a couple more years after that, like what is the parenthetical on? I want to win in Edmonton.
Listen, the elephant in the room is he talking about? Yeah, I want to win here. I'm not ready to sign yet. Is it the get us a goaltender question? I'm not happy with the goaltending situation, and maybe let's see what you come up with before the end of training camp.
Look, the uncomfortable conversation to have about Edmonton is Carter Hart. Let's all be honest. Like, cards on the table. Like, he is the best goaltender that they could potentially bring in at no cost to their roster. Yeah. And, you know, you wait around for the NHL to make their decision after that case was settled. You wonder exactly what their part in this is insofar as an investigation, or how long those guys are going to have to sit on the sidelines. You know, from a legal aspect, I guess everything is said and done, right? As far as their case goes.
No appeal, yeah, no appeal.
I've been kind of like, huh?
No, the Crown is not filing an appeal.
Right, they're not filing an appeal. So, I mean, now you just wait for potential reinstatement from the NHL. And, you know, I'm not the first person to mention Carter Hart insofar as the Edmonton Oilers go. He's clearly going to be better than most of the goaltenders that are going to be available via trade, and certainly is available at no cost to your roster. So, you know, have they mentioned that to Connor? I don't know. Can they mention that to anybody? I don't know. But that's the part of this equation that I think hasn't quite been solved yet for Connor, which is the goaltending. And you wonder if ultimately Carter Hart's going to be the solution there.
All right. On that, we'll bring on our guest. He is the host of Leafs Morning Take, freshly back from vacation. You remember what day one is like when you're young and coming back from vacation? You don't really feel like working, but damn it, Nick Alberga's here. The host of Leafs Morning Take alongside Jay Rosehill, the one and only Nick Alberga. How was vacation, Nick?
It was fantastic. I wouldn't pass up an opportunity to talk about Mitch Marner either, guys. And
I was going to say,
still
he's back for one reason.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Like Marek is not going to. Yeah, Marek is talking about this being some gigantic sacrifice. Like you'd talk on the plane back from vacation about Mitch Marner if the technology existed.
Wish I was on the beach in Barcelona talking about Mitch Marner. I'm like, can you believe this guy just can't move on and go to Vegas? Here we are in early September, and he's thinking about his ex-girlfriend.
You heard the comments. You've seen the interview with Mark Masters, citing security as an issue, citing personal and family safety as an issue. Listen, this story is nowhere close to being done. I don't think that Marner's camp even thinks that this thing is done. You know, not everyone in hockey media is back from their own vacations yet, and we haven't seen him on the skates and with the Vegas Golden Knights yet. So this story is far from over. But initial thoughts on this chapter of the Mitch Marner story.
Look, I hate to be insensitive, but he's being a whiny bitch, and this has been the case for 10 years now. I will say, like, from my understanding, a lot, like, I get it. I understand why this is coming out. I think family is a big part of this. And when there's some serious stuff against you and people threatening serious stuff, like, there's going to be a response. And that's why this guy's had a security team for the last 10 years. But for some reason, like, I don't know who's coached him and media wise, like, it just has not been good. It has not been positive. And this continues now as a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. Like, I just think it's really, really interesting that he hasn't really said a word in Toronto until like a week span where his agent goes on another podcast and now he talks to Mark Masters of TSN, and all of a sudden we finally get sort of the direction from Marner. I think all parties involved just want to move on. Like, I think Toronto wants to move on. I think Vegas wants to move on, but I'm not really shocked. We've been hearing about this for the last 6 to 8 months. Pretty interesting stuff, though.
Wish?
I'm not always the biggest Steve Simmons fan, but I'm happy he exists. I feel the same way about Larry Brooks. And he had a column about this interview with TSN where, he begins with whining about the story being placed with TSN, as every Toronto newspaper man has to do. But then he gets to the heart of it, which is that Marner and his agent have seized on something that has a slight kernel of truth. As you mentioned, he did have to have a security detail, and then have made that the narrative as far as him departing. Do you kind of see that this is like a conspiratorial thing between Marner and his agent to try to sell this line, get ahead of the tension of his return to Toronto, and just try to like create their own story?
1000% Wish. I think a couple things come to mind in this whole scenario. The comments last summer from Mitch Marner were gods here. Are you a god or are you hated? Like, we got to pick a side here. Number two, if you want to play the victim card, you can't have your security guard every other day go at Zach Phillips on Instagram. Like, it just doesn't work that way. And his security team and detail are having a meltdown on a daily basis. Like, you've got to pick a side. And I think it's exactly what you're saying. They're trying to get that narrative out there before the Maple Leafs can get their narrative out there. And I agree with you. Like, I think it was a really good piece by Simmons. I think you got to hear the other side of the story. I think when everything came out, it was very, very calculated. If you guys recall, in the month and a half prior to July 1, it was being spread, the whole Carolina thing, the Vegas thing. Like, I think it was very, very calculated. And I always say there's two sides to a story. It's probably somewhere in between, Jeff.
The one thing that I wondered about, like, I don't doubt for one second that Mitch Marner and quite possibly, as he mentioned, his family were threatened. Like, that's the reality of living a public life. Like, I get it. Wish gets it. Nick, you get it. Like, everybody gets it. It's only in varying degrees. Now, he was a victim of a very serious carjacking incident as well. And having never had that experience, I can only imagine how shaken you would be when that happens to you. The thing that I wonder about, and I'm not going to play like, this is what Masters should have asked, but one of the follow-ups now becomes, if it's been like this for so long, why didn't you ask for a trade? If it was this harmful to you and your family, because I always try to, Nick, Greg, I always try to put myself in anyone's position that I'm going to sort of have a thought about. And I always say to myself, okay, if that were me and I was really concerned about my family's safety and security, my first conversation is with my family, B, my agent, and then C, my general manager, and say, like, look, it is I feel unsafe. My family feels unsafe. No amount of security around us kept me from being carjacked. It doesn't feel like a safe environment for me and my family. I will work with you on this. I know I have a no trade clause, but I would like to go elsewhere. That's how
Nice quiet place like Raleigh.
A nice quiet
So
place like Raleigh, or I think a nice quiet place like Columbus once upon a time had a lot of interest in Mitch Marner. Again, but that might just be me. Like, that would have been one of the follow-ups. And again, not casting aspersions on Masters here. That would have been one of the follow-ups that I'd be interested in hearing. It's like, okay, so this happened. When did you ask for a trade?
No, that's fair. And I think to that point, like, it was funny. We had a family dinner on Sunday, and like, people who don't watch hockey on a daily basis or watch the Maple Leafs on a daily basis are trying to figure out why there's so much venom for Mitch Marner in this market. And I think it's so easy to display and put it out there as to why that is the case, why it's not the same for William Nylander, John Tavares, Austin Matthews, but different for Mitch Marner. And I think everything you just mentioned, it even stems back to the contract negotiations. He took every penny. Him and his agent threatened to go play in a different country, in a different league, threatened to go sign an offer sheet with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Like, it was thing after thing. And I just think the PR battle has been very, very interesting, I would say, from the Marner perspective over the years. And I think you're so right. Like, the last couple of years, he pretty much controlled everything with the no movement clause. If you hated it so much, Mitch, why did you stay in Toronto? I mean, there was various opportunities.
If I can jump in, it doesn't always work. Like, the local boy goes home story doesn't always, like, go ask Sheldon Surrey what it was like going to Edmonton. Oh, Surrey's going back to Edmonton. This is going to be great. Oh my God. Was it not? It wasn't even close to being great. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. I think one of the issues, honestly, with Marner, unlike Nylander, unlike Matthews, even though, John Tavares, wore the C, and you've never heard him complain a second about any of the criticism that he's received, and it is substantial. I think one of the issues is Mitch is A, public, and B, lives in Toronto. Like, there's no escape hatch for players when you go home, and the family is there, and the family his father at times has been he's very well known around the city. Certainly was in a lot of GTHL arenas. I just think that if things aren't going well, if you don't have an escape hatch to go somewhere else in the off season, it can be awful. And that's why I've always maintained, and this is where, and I've always raised the example of Dion Phaneuf. And Dion Phaneuf has the detractors. But you know what? Dion Phaneuf went out there and took every question and heard every bit of criticism and never changed. Never complained, none of it. And if you don't think that Dion Phaneuf heard it, guess again. He heard it tons and tons. Greg.
But there's a huge difference in comportment between the two. Like, Dion Phaneuf is a stoic shit kicker. Mitch Marner to this day looks like a child, and you right? I mean, like, if Mitch Marner had it looked like Radko Gudas, I guarantee you that most of the criticism that he catches wouldn't have happened. Am I wrong on that? Like, I feel like it's always been part of the equation with Mitch is that he looks like he's 17. And then on top of that, I think the other part of this too, and you can't really separate this from Marner's reception in Toronto. When you become the lightning rod of playoff failure, when you become the symbolic representation of playoff failure, you're screwed in the market. I mean, there's been a bit of revision about Nazem Kadri in the sense of, like, can we bring him back? Can we fix the ills of the past? Because it was clearly a mistake letting him go. But he became the symbol of playoff failure because of the suspensions in those series against the Bruins, and then he had to go. And I think Mitch became the symbol of playoff failure, one, because people would throw those highlights on social media of pretty terrible plays that he made in the postseason, but also like his numbers didn't bear out that he was playing as well in the playoffs as he was in the regular season. And so when you become that level of pariah for the franchise's playoff failure, it's going to be almost impossible for you to not catch heat.
One quick thought on that, Nick. I'm going to throw it back to you here. The interesting thing about that is Maple Leafs fans, and you're right about Kadri, obviously. Traditionally, Maple Leafs fans have always chosen a defenseman. It's always been McCabe and Murphy and Cross and Berg and Gardner, etc. It's always been, for whatever reason, some markets just have a positional bias and they'll pick someone from that position and heap all their venom at it. For Maple Leafs fans,
Gardner.
it's usually always been, I'm telling you, he was one of them. It's always been a D-man. Anyway, Nick, do you have a thought on that one?
I would just say it's easy to flip the script. Like if you guys recall earlier on in his career, Willie Nylander was that guy. And
yes,
man, oh man,
true.
if I had to pick one player to play in the playoffs for the Maple Leafs right now, it's Willie Nylander. So I think, there's a lot of things and conversations you can have, but I think Nylander's a prime example of a guy who was the whipping boy and found a way to make a difference and do something and make a play in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think ultimately it comes down to that, but for me, it's more off the ice and like just the lack of judgment every time he has a conversation. Like even in that piece with Masters, how many times did he stutter and say, and like he just not very confident in speaking. There are some guys like John Tavares, you guys have covered him for X amount of years. Perfect example. He doesn't give you anything, but he also doesn't tell you it bothers him. Like he's a prime illustration of a guy who took so much heat leaving to go to the market in Toronto and has taken the heat here too. And has been fine. So I think there's other ways where,
you know what the weird thing about, sorry to cut you off, Nick, but you know what the weird thing about all of that is? Marner won, right? Like Marner got to play for the team he grew up cheering for. Marner got tens of millions of dollars to do so. Like whenever I would catch myself and think about Marner, I always think like he won. He had everything that he wanted. He got tens of millions of dollars to play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, a team he grew up cheering for, GTHL kid. You won. I don't know that I've seen someone that upset about losing. Because there's like the game of hockey and then there's the game of hockey. And the game of hockey is make as much money as you can. And maybe you play on the team you grew up cheering for. You can say like, hey, grandkids, I played on the Toronto Maple. He won. Like, he won the game. The big game. Not the Stanley Cup game. The big game of hockey.
I was going to say, Nick, you mentioned one of Marner's original sins, though, was that contract negotiation. And I think part of the Willie story is that he didn't say, give me $1 more than Matthews on the cap. Like he earned what he got. There obviously was a little bit of people being like, it's too much. But I mean, where the cap was going and when he signed in January 2024, I think there wasn't a whole hell of a lot of, burning him in effigy from the Leafs fandom. And his negotiation was in stark contrast with that of Marner, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. And I would just add too, like I found a pathway where Marner could be beloved in this market. What happens July 1, 2026? There's a guy in Edmonton who's still a free agent and Marner leaves and his money's free. I'm not letting this go, guys. Greg. I am not letting this go because this is the same pathway John Tavares took, okay? John Tavares is re-signing with the New York Islanders. He loved Long Island. And it's like, oh shit, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the team I loved growing up, is available. They got money for the first time in a decade. Let's think about it. And now suddenly it went from he's signing August 12th and now he's signing September 3rd. And we sit here on September 2nd and nothing to be found. And now he potentially could go into the season as a pending UFA. This is a storyline for me. Nobody wants to talk about it. I will, guys.
You're hanging on.
According to Marek, though, once he goes home, he becomes a 70-point third-line center. So, I mean, that's not what you want.
And he's going to be pouty about everything. You see him in like local Tim Hortons in Newmarket, just complaining about everything and what his life has become. Okay. Anything else on Marner? I want to get a couple other things here quickly with Nick. Anything else, Wish, with you and Marner?
To transition to another topic, because I think this is probably where you're gonna go. Like, this kind of feels one of two ways for the Leafs this season, which is that have you extracted the toxin to allow this team to now thrive, or are they keeping their powder dry for a season, knowing what could be on the way to 2 summers from now? Preliminary take on the Leafs a few weeks before training camp, Nick.
I get what you're saying, like addition by subtraction. I've talked to a lot of people that suggest the Leafs are going to be substantially worse. I've talked to some people that suggest the Leafs are better off without Mitch Marner. It's probably, again, somewhere in between. I actually like what they've done this summer. I think it's important to emphasize what they did last summer, which not enough people are talking about. They solidified the crease. Like Stolarz was outstanding with Joseph Woll. The blue line is like a billion times better than it was even 2 years ago. Like, I think you look at that Maple Leafs blue line and you could say like that team, that blue line can win in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And we've seen proof of that already. I think what they want to do now is solidify what they have up front. And there's some holes. I mean, don't get me wrong. When you look at the right wing position on that top line, who's going to play with Nyes and Matthews? Is it going to be Nylander? Is it going to be Michelli? Is it going to be somebody? Like, I think they took a bit of a risk on a couple guys here in the offseason, whether it's Nicolas Waugh. Like, I like the player. I don't know where he fits in this lineup, probably as a 3C. The Michelli pickup I like quite a bit. But I think it's going to be sort of something we watch and it develops throughout the year. Like, I think the Maple Leafs will gun for a top 6 player on the market, whether it's a center, whether it's out in Calgary. I think they're going to look to solidify that top 6. But I think they're in a really good position. I wouldn't be shocked if maybe they take one step back, but they still make the Stanley Cup playoffs. I will say, I think you look at this team in the last, since I guess Craig Berube took over, I think they're a better position now to be successful in the Stanley Cup playoffs than they ever have been. Like, I like what they've put together here.
So the way that, and I've kind of made this point too about the Buffalo Sabres with the JJ Peterka deal. No, I'm not comparing Mitch Marner to JJ Peterka, other than this one very specific way. I don't know that the Buffalo Sabres are a better team without JJ Peterka, but they're a more complete team. I don't know if the Maple Leafs are a better team without Mitch Marner, but they're a more complete team than they have been. And I think that Nick Waugh playing with Dakota Joshua and maybe Bobby McMann is a miserable third line that Craig Berube loves. Are you going to miss the production? Obviously. But I think the Maple Leafs are one of those teams where you just want to get past the 82 games because all the answers are in the playoffs. Again, not as good a team, but a more complete team. Would you agree with that?
Yeah,
Nick,
and
don't
I think
be such a tease. What's the Calgary thing?
Kadri.
Oh, Nazem Kadri. Come on. I think Calgary's such an interesting team because I don't know what they're going to be. Like, they exceeded expectations last year, but what if they have a bad start? I mean, is Andersson on the table? Is Kadri on the table?
Ask the captain there. Ask the captain.
Exactly. So, like, there's going to be a lot of teams that come to lens that we don't expect. And I think the Leafs will be all around that conversation. It's natural with Kadri, but I think there's going to be some other names, like even the Anaheim Ducks, guys like Terry. I think every team's going for the same guy. But I think from the Maple Leafs perspective, what we're hammering at is like, they're going to really miss Marner in the regular season, but I truly believe like they're going to be harder to play against in the playoffs. Like, I don't know if they're going to win a Stanley Cup, but I think they're better suited to play teams like the Florida Panthers now.
Okay, last question. If they flame out again in the playoffs, who do they blame?
I threw this at Rosie before I left on vacation, and I love Berube and I love tree living, but heads are going to roll. Like, how long into the Matthews era and you don't do anything of substance in the Stanley Cup playoffs? Like, I think at the bare minimum, it has to be the third round for this team. And I don't want to use the excuse, Marner left. Like, it's not a good excuse. You have a really good team with or without Mitch Marner. So I don't want to say Berube's on the hot seat, but I think both guys at the top are on the hot seat, and there needs to be results here, guys. Like, if it's the same team this time next year, I think we're talking about serious consideration for like big substantial trades, if you catch my drift.
Ooh.
But hold on. Let's caveat that. You're saying like third round or bust. The Florida Panthers still exist.
Yeah.
and it's a distinct possibility that we are in the midst of a dynasty. So if they go out on their sword again against the Florida Panthers in the second round because of the playoff structure, like, that's not a reason to clean house, is it?
Yeah, but I get it, but like you were close. Like you went to 7 games with them. Like, how many times are you going to use, like, why can't the Leafs be that team where it's like, oh shit, we're not beating them this year? Like, they have the players to be that team, right? I think Florida is a great example. Like, they put things together at the perfect time.
Everybody in Toronto bit in one specific moment when John Tavares in Sunrise, first period, game 3, scored that wraparound. Everybody went, they're really going to do it.
Yeah.
They're really going to beat the Florida Panthers. And then they really didn't beat the Florida Panthers. But there was that moment when Tavares scored that goal where everyone went, I think they might actually do this. I think this might actually happen. Agree, disagree.
They showed what they're capable of is what I'm getting at, right? And you've got to push through at some point in time. Like, you can't just every year be like, okay, we'll get him next year. We'll get him next year. And that's been the major issue with this team, is that they can't push through when it matters most. Like, it's one thing to say, I want this money. They gave these guys the money. They paid them everything they ever desired. And now it's time to go out there and prove it. And if you can't, then I think there needs to be seismic change here.
All right.
Well, the good news is that with Marner in the Western Conference playing for Vegas and the Stanley Cup final on ESPN, I, of course, have received the memos. The NHL is fixing it. So it'll be the Leafs and the Golden Knights in the final. I'm joking. My boss has watched the show.
I got to ask you, like, I'm so disappointed. Like, I'm not a big football guy. I watch basketball a bit. I think it was a squandered opportunity for the NHL. Us in Toronto can't be the only ones who want to see this matchup, Marner against the Maple. It's crazy
Vegas?
that we got to wait till January 15th and the 23rd is the return date. Whereas, like, we had Bruce Cassidy on Leafs Morning Take, and he was talking about one of the revised schedules and it happening in October. So I want to know what the hell happened. It's my question.
I mean, it's usually like building availability,
Yep.
you know, all that jive.
Where teams are
I don't know,
traveling
take it up
when.
with Steve Hatrapetsos, man. That's the guy who makes the schedule. You know, you think someone's knocking on Steve's door and being like, "Don't give Toronto this satisfaction."
Marner's camp, a security detail. They called him firsthand. They're like, "We don't want this game until it clears over."
That's right.
The
NHL had to wait until a NATO peacekeeping force was available to guard Marner at all times.
Ridiculous, man. Ridiculous. I'm gonna get a security team too.
If you're Marner, though, you want it early in the season. You just want to get it over with.
Yeah.
Just get that first game over with. You don't want to drag this out and have that date circled going into the new year. You just want this done, don't you?
Yeah, and he doesn't have to face the media either, just the way he loves it, right? Both games in the second half of a back-to-back means an optional morning skate, so we'll see you at game time. We'll see you for the post-game festivities on the Bird.
Again, the NHL protecting Vegas.
Unbelievable.
NHL.
Oh, God. If only they did schedule it with the media that much in mind. But yeah.
I can assure you they don't. Good stuff. Welcome home, Nick. Oh, by the way, how many times did you put on the lampshade?
What do you mean?
How many times were you overserved, sir, on your vacation?
Oh, shit. I was there for 15 days, probably 9 times, man. It's just, they all blend into each other over there.
I know. You're back. Give that liver a rinse. Mix in a salad. You can do this. Have a water. Okay, bud. Good to see you again.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
The great Nick Alberga, host of Leafs Morning Take, joining us here. Before we bid you good afternoon, to get all set. What? Come on. Listen, I've been on the road with Alberga before. He is the best. He's like I wish that I was like when I was like 15 or 20 years ago.
I've been watching a lot of Mad Men this summer. It's on. There's a station that just keeps playing it 24/7 on my YouTube TV. And put on a lampshade. You and I both know it because we're old as shit. But like, put on a lampshade, tie one on. Yeah, I mean, like there are certain colloquialisms for getting hammered. That I wonder if we need to either run them back or educate the youngs about how great they were.
There were some great ones that we used. That overserved, overpoured, banged up. I don't know. What were some of we used to just call it like, we got hammered. Like that was it. I don't even know the kid. Like, honestly, isn't like this younger demographic of alleged drinkers kind of ruining all of it because they're not drinking? Like, you can understand, like, you get older, you're just not drinking anymore. But like, isn't this the truth that like the industry has a concern because like the young drinkers aren't drinking alcohol?
It's the truth. I mean, the beer industry is concerned. I know. I read a lot of
who turns down
magazines.
Hang on. Which is the first hockey player to turn down? Like even Bobby Holik had a drink of champagne out of the Stanley Cup. It was his first drink ever, but he's probably the first player ever to have his first sip of alcohol come out of the Stanley Cup. But like, how close are we to having a player say like, I'm not drinking champagne out of the cup I don't drink?
We're not. No, you still do it on special occasions. Like the Youngs are drinking at weddings and shit that. It's just that,
I don't know.
You know, I think so. They're just not like buying bottles of wine at the same rates that they used to, and that's an interesting problem for an industry that's beloved to me.
Near and dear to my heart.
The liquid coping industry is being. Gen Z is ruining it.
I don't want to see
it. Happened in the NBA this year.
What happened in the NBA?
Where the kids on the Oklahoma City Thunder, they didn't know how to drink or pop champagne or anything. So Alex Caruso, who is the veteran player, I think he's late 20s, he had to teach all the kids not only how to open the bottles, but like how to be drinking because they've never drank before.
I've never seen Greg this angry. He's quietly fuming right now. He's worried that the industry that's most near and dear to his heart is going to go the way of the typewriter.
It's possible. I will say this, though, to Zach's point. All that tells me is that the keepers of the cup have to fashion that bad boy into a bong. All the Youngs completely understand that aspect of social coping. And so you'll have some guys drinking champagne and Miller Lite out of the thing, or Miller High Life out of the thing. And then the rest of them can just, smoke a bowl after they win the cup.
1 cup, 1. Wow. Well, there are a number of cups. I think it's 3 Stanley Cups that the Hall of Fame has. Can they not sacrifice one for the non-drinkers?
So one's for the champagne, one's a bong, and then one's the kids can play with for the photo ops.
Just for the kids. Put the Fruit Loops and the milk in there. Go for it.
That's right. One's for cereal. One's for cereal and Chris Draper's kid to shit in. That's right. That's the one. And then there's the beer and champagne one, and then there's the bong one. We figured it out.
Which is the one that ends up at the bottom of the pool? Now, Glenn Anderson.
That's the drinking one. That's the one that'll be like watertight.
That's the drinking one.
Can't have the bong one. I mean, that'll get flooded.
No. All right. Bong water in the Stanley Cup. Great way to end the conversation with Greg Wyshynski on this Tuesday, September the 2nd. Enjoy the rookie showcase tomorrow. Who are you most interested to talk to?
Iginla. Because I've not spoken to any of the now Utah Mammoths about the branding of their team. So I'm intrigued to get his take on logo, on name. But I'm also intrigued to talk to some of these guys about the change in NCAA and Canadian junior rules and find out, would your path have been different if these rules were in effect earlier? And what's your take on it? So we'll see where those conversations go.
That'll be his dad. Just so you know, his dad was really good. Had really good one-timers. His dad's name was Jerome. You might want to write this down. His dad's name was Jerome. He was drafted by Dallas, but he was traded in the Nieuwendyk deal to the Calgary Flames. He wore number 12. Really, really good. Was captain of Calgary. As well. Strung it out with a number of different teams towards the end, just trying to chase that elusive cup. But his dad was really good hockey player. You can look him up. His dad's stats are on the internet. You can look before you talk to him.
The Calgary is a
city in a province called Alberga. Yes. They have 2 teams.
I was just trying to look up. I had to get Where was Iginla drafted again? Because I think
Dallas.
I chose him over somebody really good. No, I mean, what number?
Was it like 10th? What was Jerome Iginla drafted? I think he was 10th.
Hang on here. I think I picked him over somebody really good.
Sorry, he was drafted 11th. And
okay, so on the ESPN article, to bring this thing full circle,
you have Jerome Iginla.
Who do you take at 11? So who do you take at 11, though, Iginla or Kopitar? Because I thought that was a really interesting debate.
Oh, yeah, that's a really, really good one.
So Iginla's 23 points from passing Iginla's career.
I know.
Kopitar's 23 points away from passing Iginla's career total. 2 Selkes, 2 Stanley Cups.
Kopitar.
One of the premier centers of his time. I picked Iginla because of the goal total and because he was a prototypical power forward in the NHL.
This is all true. This is all true. But you know me, I have a bias towards players that win the Selke Trophy, that are in the Selke conversation, because you're playing the two main elements of hockey, offense and defense, and you're excelling in both. I have a real bias towards that trophy, so I go Kopitar.
So would you take Kopitar over Ginla at 11? Because I
yes,
I went Ginla, but I understand the counter argument.
I would go Kopitar, absolutely.
Okay. Well, there you go. So that's 1 out of 224 that I clearly got wrong.
I really wanted you to put Meloche at 70. I understand why you did, but it was still hipster of you to throw a Gilles in there. And the upside down burger. I want a full research on the upside down burger of Meloche 27.
Complete and utter nonsense.
Just don't judge. Thanks. Don't judge. Just do your research on it. This is made for you. Made for you. Hipster goaltender with upside down burger at his burger joint.
With the upside down burger.
This is like
shout out to the chat. Thanks to all the girls and boys hanging with us on a summer still a summer schedule show.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. Great stuff. Greg Wyshynski from ESPN, everybody, and one of his latest. And I just love it. It's a great summer read. You just scroll through the whole thing, and next you realize, like, where did the time go? I just went through like over 200 hockey players. The best NHL draft pick ever at every slot from number 1 to 224. And Zach, you knew I was going to bring up Gilles Meloche, right? Like,
well, I see you every day, so I knew right away that the picture was missing. So I was pretty ready for that one, yes. And then leading it
tough
all
to
the
go
way
against Rob Blake, though. Like, I get it. Like, all right. I think Meloche, if he was on one of those powerhouses, would have been in the Hall of Fame. But Rob Blake's Hall of Fame, one of the best defensemen. So yeah. I totally get that.
Yeah.
We still have some business to take care of here before the show concludes for another day. And at the end of this, I want to sort of go over what the schedule is going to be like. There's some stuff that maybe even Zach doesn't even know. How about that?
Probably.
So you're probably going to get like legitimate surprise from Zach. Like, I got to do what? In the meantime, the sheet is powered by our good friends and partners at FanDuel. Home of the same game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. What have you cooked up today from our friends at FanDuel, Zach?
Well, Jeff, what is the theme of the show here today being?
Gilles Meloche.
Well, aside from that, our
Mitch
main
Marner.
guest and yes, Mitch Marner, and FanDuel's been putting up a lot of different stuff. It's been really cool. If you check it out on FanDuel, lots of different unique ways to bet or approach the season or make predictions, however you want to go about it. And one of the main things that you and I did, I think it was like a month and a half ago, was who would get more points, Matthews or Marner this season. And you definitively said Mitch Marner. Now, I agree with you on that, but you can kind of predict here now how many points a player will get. And I picked out Mitch Marner for today's example over on FanDuel, and they have his line for this year set
over all day. Play with Jack Eichel, play power play, over 94 point. Yes, over. Yes, over. Just stay healthy, and he's over. Just it's a 2-foot putt. This is the layup. This is the easiest. This is simple. This one's a snap. This one's like breaking sticks. This is the quickest segment we've ever done here for our friends at FanDuel. Over. Do you disagree? Like, put aside all the maybe personal feelings you might have about Mitch's history with your team, but like, he's an outstanding player. You don't think that he's gonna outpace that number?
My only question is, well, I think that this is probably a pretty accurate number for him to come into. How much better is his situation for him there than what it was in Toronto that's going to give him that drastic of a boost? Like, I'm not saying he doesn't do this number, but I don't think it's blowing the number out of the water. He just got his first 100-point season.
Okay. And who is he going to play with? We assume. Who's he going to play with? Who's the center? Who do we all assume he's going to play with?
Eichel.
Okay. What's his contract status, and is he motivated to have a really big year?
Okay, that's fair to throw in there. He just played with a guy who scored 69 goals a year ago. Like, Matthews has 2 100-point seasons under his belt. He's not going from some scrub
to
playing with Jack Eichel.
Okay, hang on. You know what I do wonder
The power
about?
play he's coming from in Toronto had John Tavares, William Nylander, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and then name your defenseman / fifth player on that group. But my point is just he's being surrounded by talent. He's not going from none to a ton.
Here's what I wonder about now. This to me would be intriguing about Mitch Marner. The most amount of goals he's ever scored in a season is 35.
Okay.
And for someone who primarily is a disher, you say to yourself, that's a good number. Does he get more than 35 goals? Now that he just doesn't have to set up Matthews, find it for Matthews, get Matthews in the shooting spot. But now it's more, and let's not forget too, Jack Eichel's a pass first guy.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, do we see, not that he's got a blazing, he's not firing it like Ovechkin or Matthews, but do we see Mitch Marner the goal scorer next year? Or this year? What's the demarcation point for this year versus next year? When you're in July, you're still saying next year. You're in August, are you still saying next year? Maybe, but I feel really uncomfortable in September saying next year about something that's going to happen in a month. It's this year, right?
This is non-hockey related, but I've had this same conversation or same debate of when you say this weekend versus next weekend. That rolls over, it's the same thing. But I do. To
me, it's September. Although I'm uncomfortable with it.
Yeah. I think
does he get more than 35 goals?
You get into
there you go. This is my FanDuel line here then for you. 35 goals.
I'll say yes. Yes.
Okay, so you're with me.
Yeah.
You think we'll see more of a shooter than Mitch Marner? Okay.
Yeah, but
I don't disagree.
The other side of that would then become how much could his how much could his total point production actually genuinely increase if he is going to be scoring more goals? Because as you've noted, the guy he's playing with is a pass first guy there as well. He's obviously an incredible goal scorer in Jack Eichel, but it's not like I'm saying, oh wow, he's going to score 5 to 10 more goals to get him over 40, and he's going to score. Or he's going to put up, let's say 15 more assists where it's now that number's blown out of the water. That's where I have the questions. Have you seen the movie Semi-Pro?
I have not.
Oh, okay. There's a scene where Will Ferrell, it's a stupid Will Ferrell basketball movie, but he's under the basket and he's yelling for the pass. The guy passes him the ball and then he throws it back to the guy outside the 3-point line and he yells only if you want it. On the inside, he's yelling for the pass. When you started saying Jack Eichel's a pass first guy as well, that's all I can imagine. They pass the ball back and forth 40 times and then the coach is yelling, somebody shoot the ball. That's what I can imagine.
2-0, Eichel and Marner, who takes the shot?
The trailer.
The defenseman is trailing. All right, that's all good stuff. Okay, really quickly, I'll tweet this out as well. So the schedule is going to go suchly. So the show is moving times from 3 o'clock to 1 o'clock. That's how we've been doing all these 1 o'clock shows. I think you knew that already, right? And,
yes, I knew that.
And when the show will, hang on a second here. Let me get my calendar up. We are going to start. We're going to start full-time shows on the. Where are we here? We're going to start doing full-time shows on the 15th, where we're going to go daily. Even though I think that week we're going to miss the Thursday. But it seems like when everybody else is really starting to get rolling. So we're going to get rolling on the 15th with daily shows at 1 o'clock Eastern. Okay, that's 11 Mountain. That is 10 Pacific time.
Cool.
That
works for me.
That's going to be your life for next season or this season. What are we calling it, young Zach?
This season.
All right,
we're calling it this season.
That's what it's going to be.
That's our this season. We are now in this season.
We're now in this season. All right, so for this season, that's when we're starting, September 15th. Got a whole bunch of new stuff planned for you as well. Some of it Zach doesn't even know about.
No,
but
there's a lot I don't know about.
I know. Trust me, it's the best way to live. You're doing yourself a favor.
There's times I get a text. I'm like, "We're doing what now?" Okay.
It's just great. You could do that when you're young and you don't have kids and big responsibilities. I was like, all right, cool. I'm just go with that. Like, just go with the vibe, man. See where this path takes me. So that's what it's going to be. So we're moving to 1 o'clock Eastern, 11 Mountain, 10 Pacific. Look forward to that, and watch for other announcements coming up about this program shortly in the next few days, if not weeks. Okay, good. We're all good. Zach, great stuff as always. Thanks to Greg Wyshynski for stopping by from ESPN.com. Thanks to Nick Alberga for bringing the high heat in the Mitch Marner conversation. Listen, Nick's never a passenger in these conversations, as we all know. And he's never shy about sharing his opinion. Either is Jay Rosehill, and that's what makes that show so great, Leafs Morning Take. And thanks to you for tuning in, either on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. Thanks so much for being part of it. Tip your Zamboni driver on the way out, as we like to say. And we'll talk to you again next week. Maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. It's one of those things. But again, the show kicking off season 2, or really season 1.5 for yours truly on the 15th of September. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk in 7-ish days. Good for me. Hope it's good for you. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.